The winter wind whipped through the narrow streets of Portland, carrying with it the promise of a storm. Rachel Morrison pulled her son Liam closer, adjusting his bright blue winter jacket and checking to make sure his dinosaur backpack was secure. The morning rush hour crowds moved around them like a river, indifferent to the weight of history that hung in the air. 3 years of carefully constructed solitude had been Rachel's sanctuary. After leaving Daniel, she had rebuilt her life piece by piece, transforming herself from a broken-hearted corporate designer to a freelance graphic artist who could work from anywhere. Liam was her anchor, her reason for everything. As they approached the corner coffee shop where Rachel would drop Liam off at daycare, she noticed something different about her son's demeanor. Liam had always been an observant child, but today he seemed particularly quiet, his deep brown eyes scanning the street with an intensity that seemed beyond his 3 years. "Everything okay, buddy?" Rachel asked, kneeling to zip up his jacket. Liam looked up, his gaze direct and unnervingly mature. "Mommy, why don't I look like the other daddies in my picture book?" The question struck Rachel like a physical blow. She had prepared herself for this moment, but never quite knew how it would arrive. Their story was complicated. Daniel had never known about Liam's existence, a secret Rachel had kept locked away with a combination of pain and protection. The coffee shop's warmth enveloped them as Rachel guided Liam to his favorite corner table. Mrs. Rodriguez, the kind-hearted owner who had become something of a guardian angel to Rachel, approached with 2 hot chocolates, one for Liam, with extra marshmallows, and one for Rachel. "You look like you could use this," Mrs. Rodriguez said, her weathered hands placing the steaming mug in front of Rachel. Rachel managed a weak smile. The truth was, she always looked like she could use something. Comfort, understanding, absolution. Her decision to keep Liam a secret from Daniel had been born from a moment of profound hurt and self-preservation. Their relationship had ended dramatically 3 years ago. Daniel, then a rising environmental lawyer with a passion that bordered on obsession, had been entirely consumed by a landmark case against a major corporation's environmental violations. Rachel, feeling invisible and constantly second to his professional ambitions, had reached her breaking point. The day she left, she discovered she was pregnant. The timing seemed almost cruel, a final connection to a man who had seemed more married to his work than to her. She had made the difficult choice to raise Liam alone, protecting him from potential disappointment and hurt. But children have a way of asking questions that cut straight to the heart of things. "Do you know my daddy?" Liam asked, his marshmallow-laden hot chocolate creating a white mustache on his upper lip. Rachel's hand trembled slightly as she set down her mug. "It's complicated, sweetie," she responded, a phrase she had used countless times before. Little did Rachel know that fate was about to complicate things even further. At that very moment, Daniel Rice was walking down the street, his mind preoccupied with a new environmental case that promised to be his most challenging yet. The wind carried with it not just the promise of a storm, but the potential for a life-altering encounter. As Liam finished his hot chocolate and prepared to head to daycare, Rachel's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Typically, she would ignore it, but something made her pause. The message was brief but would change everything. "Rachel Morrison, we need to talk. It's about Daniel." The world seemed to pause, the coffee shop's background noise fading into a distant hum. Rachel stared at the message, her carefully constructed life suddenly feeling as fragile as a house of cards. Liam tugged at her sleeve, oblivious to the storm brewing both outside and within his mother's heart. "Mommy, can we go now?" Rachel took a deep breath, tucking the phone away. "Yes, sweetheart. Let's go." Little did she know, the shadows of the past were about to step into the light, bringing with them a revelation that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, sacrifice, and family. The day was just beginning, and with it, a journey of unexpected connections and long-buried truths. The mysterious text message haunted Rachel throughout the day. Between design projects and stolen glances at her phone, She couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. Who knew about Daniel? And more importantly, what did they want to tell her? By late afternoon, as she picked up Liam from daycare, the tension had become almost unbearable. Mrs. Chen, Liam's daycare provider, noticed Rachel's distraction immediately. "Everything okay?" she asked, helping Liam into his winter coat. Rachel forced a smile. "Just a long day," she deflected, watching Liam bounce excitedly about a drawing he'd made at school. The walk home took them through a small park, the winter trees bare and stark against the gray Portland sky. Liam chattered about his day, a new friend named Marcus, a toy dinosaur he'd played with, the special lunch his mom had packed. Rachel listened, her mind elsewhere. Her phone buzzed again. This time, the message was from an unknown email address. Rachel waited until they were home. Liam settled with his favorite cartoon before opening it. The message was brief but cryptic. "Daniel Rice is in trouble." Information that could change everything. "Meet at Bridgewater Cafe, 7 p.m. Come alone." Rachel's mind raced. Trouble. What kind of trouble could Daniel be in? And why would someone contact her after all these years? Her thoughts were interrupted by Liam. "Mommy, can we have pizza tonight?" The mundane request brought her back to the moment. Pizza. Bedtime. Normal life. But nothing felt normal anymore. As evening approached, Rachel faced a dilemma. The mysterious message promised information, but meeting a stranger felt dangerous. She considered calling her brother, Michael, but hesitated. He'd always been protective, and this situation was complicated. A plan formed. She'd ask her neighbor, Elena Rodriguez, a retired police detective, to watch Liam. Elena had been a godsend since Rachel moved to the neighborhood, often helping with childcare and offering sage advice. "Something doesn't feel right," Elena said, her keen detective's instinct immediately picking up on Rachel's tension. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Rachel nodded, her resolve hardening. "I need to know." The Bridgewater Cafe was a small, intimate space tucked between vintage bookstores and artisan coffee shops. Rachel arrived precisely at 7 p.m., scanning the room nervously. A figure in the corner caught her attention. A woman, probably in her late 40s, with graying hair and intelligent eyes. "Rachel Morrison?" the woman asked, her voice low and controlled. Rachel sat down, her heart racing. "Who are you? What do you know about Daniel?" The woman pushed a manila envelope across the table. "My name is Jennifer Hartley. I'm a private investigator. Daniel Rice is in significant danger, and you might be the only person who can help him." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Rachel's mind reeled. Danger. Help. These were the last things she expected to hear about a man she had walked away from years ago. Jennifer continued, "Daniel's current environmental case has attracted some very dangerous attention. He's uncovered evidence of corporate environmental crimes that could bring down a major international corporation. But they're fighting back, and not just through legal channels." Rachel listened, her professional designer's mind breaking down the information into logical pieces. The Jennifer explained the details. Daniel had discovered a pattern of environmental violations that went beyond simple corporate negligence. It was a systemic cover-up involving multiple companies, political connections, and potentially illegal activities. "He needs someone who understands him," Jennifer said, sliding a photograph across the table. It was a picture of Daniel, looking more tired and worn than Rachel remembered. But beneath the fatigue, she could see the same passionate determination that had first drawn her to him years ago. "Why me?" Rachel asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jennifer's response was direct. "Because you know him better than anyone. And because your son," she paused, "might be in danger too." The last statement hit Rachel like a physical blow. Liam. Her world. Her everything. As the cafe's ambient noise seemed to fade away, Rachel realized her carefully constructed life was about to be turned upside down. The shadows of the past were no longer content to remain hidden. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Liam's asleep. Everything okay? Rachel looked at Jennifer, a mix of fear and determination crystallizing in her eyes. Tell me everything. The night was restless for Rachel. After her meeting with Jennifer, sleep came in fits and starts, her mind replaying every detail of the conversation. The manila envelope sat on her bedside table, a tangible reminder of the life she thought she had left behind. Early morning light filtered through the curtains when Liam crawled into her bed, his favorite stuffed dinosaur tucked under his arm. "Mommy, I had a weird dream," he mumbled, pressing close to her. Rachel held him tight, the weight of Jennifer's revelations pressing down on her. The potential danger to her son was no longer an abstract concept, but a very real threat. By mid-morning, she had made a decision. Michael, her brother, was a cybersecurity expert who worked for a private firm. If anyone could help her understand the depth of the situation, it would be him. "This is serious, Rach," Michael said during their video call, his eyes scanning the documents Jennifer had provided. "The environmental case Daniel's working on isn't just about corporate pollution. It looks like there's a massive cover-up involving political connections, offshore accounts, and potential international crime rings." Rachel listened, her graphic designer's mind creating mental maps of the connections. "What does this mean for Liam? For Daniel?" Michael's expression grew grave. "It means you're both potential targets. These aren't the kind of people who play by the rules. They've been known to silence whistleblowers and anyone who gets too close to the truth." The conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Rachel tensed, but relaxed when she saw it was Elena, her neighbor. "Everything okay?" Elena asked, sensing the tension. She had been a detective long enough to read people like open books. Rachel hesitated, then made a split-second decision. She needed allies. Closing the laptop, she invited Elena in and began to explain everything. Her past with Daniel, the mysterious investigator, the potential danger. Elena listened carefully, her detective's mind piecing together the puzzle. "We need to be proactive," she said finally. "These kinds of corporate criminals don't back down easily." As they discussed potential strategies, Liam played quietly in the corner, building an elaborate dinosaur world with his toys. The innocence of his play stood in stark contrast to the serious conversation happening around him. A plan began to take shape. Michael would use his cybersecurity skills to investigate the digital trail of the corporate conspiracy. Elena would leverage her old police contacts to gather more information. And Rachel would need to do something she had avoided for years: contact Daniel. That afternoon, while Liam was at daycare, Rachel found herself in a small, secluded coffee shop, her hands trembling as she composed a message to Daniel's work email. Each word was carefully chosen, revealing just enough to spark his interest without exposing too much. The response came faster than she expected. "Rachel, is this really you? We need to talk. Urgently." His words were a mixture of shock, concern, and something else. Hope, perhaps, or desperation. Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was Jennifer Hartley. "They know we're investigating," Jennifer said, her voice tight with controlled panic. "Corporate security has been tracking Daniel's movements. They're getting closer to shutting down his investigation. And him." Rachel's mind raced. The carefully constructed walls she had built around her life were crumbling. Protecting Liam was her only priority, but that meant understanding the full extent of the threat. "I need to see Daniel," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. Jennifer's response was immediate. "Not here. Not now. It's too dangerous. We need a plan." As the afternoon light began to fade, Rachel realized their lives had irrevocably changed. The past she had run from was now directly threatening her future and her son's safety. Liam's laughter echoed from the other room, a stark reminder of everything she had to lose and everything she would fight to protect. The game had changed, and Rachel Morrison was ready to play. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of careful planning and mounting tension. Michael had uncovered more about the corporate conspiracy, a network of environmental violations spanning multiple countries, with connections reaching deep into political circles. They're not just hiding pollution, Michael explained during a late-night video call, his face illuminated by multiple computer screens. They're systematically destroying evidence and silencing anyone who gets too close. Rachel's apartment had transformed into a makeshift operations center. Alina kept watch, her years of detective work proving invaluable. Liam remained blissfully unaware, his childhood a protective bubble of dinosaur drawings and innocent play. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. Jennifer Hartley arranged a secure meeting, a remote cabin outside Portland, far from prying eyes. Daniel would be there, along with critical evidence that could blow the entire conspiracy wide open. The night before the meeting, Rachel struggled with an impossible decision. Liam would need to be protected. Alina offered to take him to her sister's farm, a secluded property far from the city. "Mom, why are we packing?" Liam asked, helping her fold his favorite dinosaur shirt. Rachel smiled, her heart aching. "An adventure," she said, keeping her voice light. "You're going to visit Aunt Alina's sister's farm." As dawn broke, the plan went into motion. Liam was safely delivered to Alina's sister, his excitement about seeing farm animals momentarily distracting him from the tension in the adults' voices. The drive to the cabin was tense. Michael had equipped Rachel with a secure communication device, a burner phone with multiple encryption layers. Jennifer's instructions were precise. Arrive alone. Follow specific coordinates. Be prepared for anything. The cabin stood in a clearing, surrounded by towering pine trees. Winter had stripped the landscape bare, creating a world of stark whites and deep greens. Rachel's hybrid SUV crunched to a stop on the gravel drive. Daniel was already there. The moment they saw each other was like a physical shock. 3 years of separation, of unspoken words and hidden truths, collapsed in an instant. He looked different, more weathered, lines of stress etched around his eyes, but still fundamentally the same man she had loved. "Rachel," he said, her name a mixture of wonder and caution. Before they could speak further, Jennifer emerged from the cabin. "We don't have much time," she warned. "The evidence Daniel has collected is explosive." Inside, the cabin was Spartan. A single table covered with files, photographs, and digital drives. Daniel began to explain the scope of the investigation. "Global environmental solutions isn't just cutting corners," he said, spreading out a series of documents. "They're systematically destroying ecosystems, bribing government officials, and creating a network of environmental destruction that spans continents." Rachel listened, her designer's mind creating visual connections between the scattered evidence. Complex networks of corporate malfeasance unfolded before her eyes. "They know I'm close to exposing everything," Daniel continued, "which means they'll do anything to stop me. To stop us." A sudden sound outside, a twig snapping, interrupted them. Jennifer moved to the window, her body tense. "We've been found," she said, her voice calm but urgent. The next moments happened in a blur. Jennifer pulled out a hidden communication device, calling for emergency extraction. Daniel grabbed the most critical files, stuffing them into a waterproof case. Rachel's phone buzzed. A message from Alina. "Potential breach at the farm. Liam is safe, but we may need to move." The world seemed to compress into a single moment of critical decision. Protect the evidence. Protect their son. Survive. "We need to go," Daniel said, reaching for Rachel's hand. For the first time in years, she didn't pull away. The cabin's back door opened to a narrow trail leading into the dense forest. Their only escape route. Their only hope of protecting everything they loved. Liam's face flashed in Rachel's mind. Her reason for everything. Whatever came next, she would fight. For him. For the truth. The hunt was about to begin. The forest became their sanctuary and their battlefield. Daniel and Rachel moved with a synchronicity that surprised them both, years of separation dissolving in the face of immediate danger. Jennifer led the way, her years of investigative experience evident in every careful step. The extraction point is 2 miles east, Jennifer whispered, checking the handheld GPS device. We need to move quickly. Rachel's mind raced between the immediate threat and the larger picture. The evidence they carried could bring down a massive corporate conspiracy, but the personal stakes were even higher. Liam, their son, the child Daniel had never known existed. A distant sound, mechanical, purposeful, cut through the forest's silence. Pursuit. They're using drones, Daniel said, his voice low. Corporate security. They don't intend to negotiate. Michael's voice crackled through their encrypted communication device. I'm tracking their digital signature. They're using advanced surveillance technology, but I can create interference. The next hour became a carefully choreographed dance of survival. Michael's digital intervention created blind spots in the pursuit, while Jennifer navigated them through the most challenging terrain. Rachel discovered a strength she didn't know she possessed, a mother's determination amplified by the gravity of their mission. Their first real moment of connection came unexpectedly. Huddled behind a fallen pine during a brief respite, Daniel looked at Rachel with a mix of wonder and regret. Liam, he said softly, tell me about him. Rachel's resolve softened momentarily. He loves dinosaurs. He's curious about everything. He draws these incredible pictures that make no sense, but somehow tell the most amazing stories. A distant drone of engines grew closer. Their moment of connection was short-lived. We need to split up, Jennifer advised. Increase our chances of getting the evidence out. The plan was risky but necessary. Daniel would take the primary evidence drive, while Rachel and Jennifer would create a diversion. Michael continued to provide digital cover, disrupting tracking systems and creating false trails. As they prepared to separate, Daniel grabbed Rachel's hand. When this is over, he said, I want to know my son. Their extraction point was a small clearing where a chartered helicopter waited. Belina had coordinated the rescue, her police connections proving invaluable. The final confrontation came suddenly. Corporate security found them just as the helicopter's distant thrum became audible. A firefight erupted, Jennifer's tactical training keeping them one step ahead of their pursuers. The drive, Daniel shouted, tossing the waterproof case to Rachel as he provided cover fire. In that moment, everything seemed to slow down. Rachel understood the weight of what they carried, not just evidence of corporate crime, but a chance to protect future generations. The helicopter descended, a lifeline amid chaos. Hours later, in a secure federal building, the full extent of their discovery became clear. The evidence Daniel and Rachel had gathered would trigger the largest environmental corporate investigation in recent history. Global environmental solutions would fall, and with it, a network of corruption that had operated in the shadows for years. But the most important reunion was yet to come. At Alina's sister's farm, Liam ran toward them, his dinosaur backpack bouncing with each step. Daniel knelt, tears in his eyes, as his son approached. Hi, Liam said, looking up at Daniel with curious eyes. Do you want to see my dinosaur drawing? Rachel watched, her heart full. The past had found its resolution, not through conflict, but through understanding, through love. As the sun set over the farm, casting long shadows across the land they had fought to protect, a new chapter began, not just for Daniel, Rachel, and Liam, but for everyone who believed that truth could triumph over corruption. The story was far from over, but for now, they were safe. They were together.